Hey y'all, it's Michael, and today I'm here to talk about two books, these books right here, because they're both set in Haiti, one more in currentish time and one in the 18th century. And so I thought I'd give you guys my thoughts on what I thought about them. Let's start with Krak by Edwin Dandecat. I first heard of this book from Dee from Brown Gold Reading, and then a whole bunch of people kept saying that, oh Michael, you're gonna love this story, you're gonna really enjoy it, and I really did. This is a short story collection essentially, but all the short stories in some sort of way tie together. They kind of form an overall narrative without giving too much away, they form a narrative. Krik is like a saying that when someone says Krik, you say crack when they're about to tell a story. So like Krik, I hope you said correct, because then you're awesome. But yeah, so that's where the title is from. It's so hard to talk about short stories because you don't want to talk about them because it can give a lot away because they're so short. The way I'm going to talk about this is how I felt about like individually each story essentially, and then the overall narrative. Overall, I really love the writing in this. It's very folklore-ish. It's told in a way that seems very mystical, magical, but it's grounded. There's not magic in a way that you would normally think. Yeah. There's two in here that I really enjoyed, and the first one is actually the first one in the story collection. It's called Children of the Sea. This is about a boy and a girl. The boy is he's on a boat, and the girl is in Haiti. Without giving too much away, that's essentially what it is. It's going back and forth between these two perspectives, and this is a really... I'm glad that this is the first short story in here because you really get a sense of Dandecat's writing. It's really lyrical in a way, without being too like over your head. I don't know how to describe it. It's done so well. Her writing is it's so good. It's borderline like prose and verse. It's great. The other short story that I really enjoyed in here is the last one called Caroline's Wedding, and this one is fantastic. It's about a family in New York, and they're from Haiti, and this was such a good short story. It's about Caroline's wedding. We get to see this family who has this dynamic, like, and the way they interact with each other. I think that's my favorite part because I really got to know who these people were. All the short stories connect, so like if you talk about one, you can kind of talk about the other one. Like you might spoil something, but I really enjoyed it. Now, there is a short story in here called Night Woman, and I was like, wow, that one was really good. It talked about this thing that like is part of the culture that they do. I really like it. I thought it's a fantastic short story collection. I gave it 4 stars out of 5. I would recommend it. Alright, the next book that I want to talk about is Dance on a Volcano by Marie Viewx-cahuvet, translated by Kayama L. Glover. First heard about it from GQ, and then Dee again, she was telling me that this is one of her stories that she wanted to read because she's reading stories from the Caribbean. This also takes place in Haiti, so that's why I'm doing both of these book reviews. Now, I didn't know what this was about going into it. I literally knew the basis, and in the back of this, it talks a lot of the praises on here. It says a lot about, like, this one says it compares it to stories like War and Peace, The Known World, Gone with the Wind, and after you read it, you can see. Now, the only one I'm familiar with is Gone with the Wind, and I can kind of see it. But this book, really interesting. This is historical fiction. In the end, I don't know if it's a spoiler, but you find out that it's actually like true. Well, if you know about Haitian history, this takes place in like the late 18th century, so you kind of know what it leads up to. If you know, and then that's not a spoiler at all, because if you know what happens in Haiti during that time, or in the world during the late 18th century, you kind of know what's going to happen. This is about Mignette. This takes place in Port-au-Prince, and it's basically about Mignette, who gets discovered. Now, this is important too, that Mignette is actually what they call mulatto. That word is just, it doesn't sit right with me. But that's what she's called. She's half, well, you find out what her background is. But it's about Mignette and her sister and her mom, Jasmine, essentially. It's like a family saga-ish. Mignette gets discovered by this piano teacher who works for a theater company in Port-au-Prince. Come to find out that Mignette has one of the most beautiful voices she has ever heard. Now, during this time, there was still segregation in a way, and still a lot of racism, a lot of prejudice, a lot of discrimination. So it's still set during that time. It's set during that time. So she gets trained, has a showing for her, and so the showing is a success. People say that she has one of the most beautiful like singing voices anyone has ever heard, and so she shot to stardom essentially. But there are a lot of layers to this story. Essentially, this book is split into 3 parts. The first part is like her discovering, the theater scene. The second part is her being an adult and with love and stuff. And the third part deals with a huge event that happens. Like I said, if you know anything about Haitian history, then you kind of know what it leads up to. So I thought this book, like the beginning of this, is incredible. Like the way that it introduces Mignette and her family is done so beautifully, especially the part, okay, I'm gonna talk a lot about this. My favorite part of this book is the growth of Mignette as a character. Because she starts off, she's so naive. She's so naive because she thinks that being in front of these white people who's gonna watch her perform, that they are gonna be so in awe of her talent that she's gonna get the treatment that everybody else gets, all the other white people get. And I was like, no, you're not. Because let me just tell you, you think these racist white people are going to welcome you in their society? Just because you have an incredible talent? I was like, no. And she discovers that fast. Really discovers that fast. And there's this growth of this character who's so naive, but then as she becomes older and she becomes an adult, she discovers that this world, if I want something done, I have to command it. I have to fight for what I believe in. And I really enjoyed watching her as a character because she really does grow in that sense. Now, I also really enjoyed the moments with her and her family because you find out the history of her family, like what happened with Jasmine, her mom, and there is this moment where this interaction with her mom that I was like, wow, this is done so well. I was like, oh, I feel it. It's fantastic. And then the book, there in the second half, it really starts to nosedive for me. And the ending, I think this book could have been expanded. Now granted, it's 500 pages, but I think it could have been even bigger. It's deceptively small because look at this size and look at this. It's a really short book, and it's spaced out. I think she could have done with 1,000 pages. Now, I don't know the history of this novel. The 2/3 end of this moves incredibly fast, especially the ending, because when that huge event happens, it goes like, and I was like, oh, that's it? I was like, oh my god, it went by incredibly fast. Now, something does happen in the end that I was like, oh, okay, so it was. In a way, Cahuvet is really great at writing Mignette. I think it's great that she focuses on Mignette because she does switch perspective and shows you about other characters and what they're doing, but essentially it is about Mignette, and it's great that she focuses on her because she really does develop this character as someone that is a growing character and does become aware of the world that is happening around her. It's cool seeing other events happen from around the world. I I really like that part because it's just really cool seeing how this fits in within like history of the world. I think that's really great. I don't know if it's the translation maybe, but some parts of this I thought it felt a little choppy, like the writing was a little bit it felt weird for me, and I think that might have been a distributing factor for how it moved incredibly fast towards the end. I don't know if that's the translation or if that's how she wrote it in French, and that's how Glover translated it. But there are some parts that felt, I was like, whoa, this is really choppy. I also know how to talk about, because it's important, but the love story in this. Now, usually I don't talk about like the romance because I mean, I don't really care about the romance, but this has a lot of romance, and some of the romances I was like, it felt. I could see why someone would compare it to Gone with the Wind because it had that like romancy feel to it. There was some of the romances I did enjoy, some of them I didn't. Without giving too much away, that's how I feel about it. But yeah, I would recommend it. I actually liked it. I gave it 3. It was like between a 3.5. So yes, I would recommend it. If you read any of these 2 books, let me know what you think about them. Until then, I'll see you guys till later. Bye. The reason why I'm wearing a raincoat is because it was raining earlier, and so if it starts to rain, I have this ready. But I'm gonna go for my camera first. I'm just saying.